Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Sober Sitdown. I'm your host, Scotty Stuch. With me today is a new well-known author, Kathryn Genovese. She had wrote the book Eyes of a Survivor. Kathryn is from Akron, Ohio, and she's going to be telling us her story today and hope it will inspire others. Kathryn, how you doing today?
I'm good, doing really good. How are you doing, Scott?
I'm doing all right. We're not too far from each other. We're just one state away from one another, you know?
Yeah. See? Still running into all that construction on the roads.
Yep. So, Kathryn, you wrote the book "Eyes of a Survivor." Pretty much a story based upon your past. Not to give any spoilers away, but let's start in the younger years. What was it like, Kathryn Genovese, growing up?
Well, I was raised Roman Catholic. I had a very strict father. You're touching a base where I really don't know a lot of my childhood. I really blocked a lot of it out. And like I was saying on a podcast that I just did, I would prefer to keep that door closed because everything that I've been dealing with. And I don't want to open that door up because I'm doing okay as of today. And if
Okay.
it's been a closed door for so many years, I'm just going to keep that door closed.
Okay. Well, maybe we could touch back, like, maybe into what got you into, like, the game. Like, was that maybe more your teenage years? Like, what
When I
led you?
was, well, when I really got into the game heavy is probably when I was 18 years old.
Okay.
And I ran with pretty notorious people.
So
And yeah.
did you believe that, like, maybe it was like the crew you were hanging out with, or like what kind of led you into that life, or is that something you don't want to talk
You
about?
know what? I don't really think. Yeah, basically, I'll take that back. Yeah, because it was in Youngstown. Youngstown's pretty crazy. So I went there, and I basically was a ballroom dance teacher, and then I ran a bowling alley / rock and roll place. And but then there was more involved. I don't want to mention no names or anything, but being that young, I think, you're still young at 18. And I moved out there to Niles, Ohio when I was 19. And it was just seeing the whole going to the nice clubs and meeting certain people because there was a place called the VIP. Are you familiar with Youngstown at all?
Yeah, I used to drive tractor trailer to Youngstown, Niles, and
Well,
Austintown.
then you know Youngstown. And I used to go to Bill's place in Austin. It's
Okay.
a little dive place. But yeah, it used to be a lot of fun in Austin. But so I worked in Warren as well, but I was right on the strip of Niles. So there was a Tin Pan, Landmark. There's a bunch of places, that we used to hang out and stuff. Um, at that time, my father was a little bit upset because I was going to make that move, and I really didn't understand why he would be upset about it. Because he's like, Catherine, you have a mouth on you. And I do. I mean, if I see it, I say it, I wasn't filtered at all. So it was really, it's pretty bad. But so I end up telling this family off, and they're very well known. And I don't want to mention no names, but the guy that I was seeing, he was a bounty hunter. And what he would used to do is take kids from cults and deprogram them back. But then he was bartending too. So I ended up running my mouth to this well-known man, very well-known man, and they thought that I was somebody's wife. And he's like, no, she's in Akron. That has to be Kathryn Genovese. So they waited until he got off work, and there was three guys got out of a Cadillac, pulled him aside, and he was a big Serbian man. He's in my book. He was one of the cray cray guys, that ended up killing my dog. I mean, this is how crazy this guy was. Pulled him aside of the road, told him to get out of town within 2 days. And he's like, well, I got to go get my key from my my girlfriend, And they put his hand through the window and said, get out of town. And I'm like, whoa. So when I walked in, I'm like, what's going on? And I'm looking around going, why is all this blood everywhere? So he ended up saying to me, because I'm not mentioning no names, Scott. Well, oh, go funny. No, I'm kidding. If you just caught that. So I end up saying to so and so, and he goes, he said, we have to be out of town in 2 days. And I go, what are you talking about? And then I called up my dad. And they still wanted us to go out. I think it was a respect thing, but it wasn't like they were going to hurt us. You know what I mean? They're just been more or less, leave her alone. She's so and so. And I swear to God, I mean, it all went down like that, like a movie. It was crazy. So I was a part of this guy's life for a long time, and he was major, and he was really crazy, big Serbian guy. And then we end up leaving, and then we end up moving back, and we moved in with my mother for a while, and then we end up living, moved to in Akron because I'm on the outskirts of Akron in the suburbs. So we lived there for a while, and we were still doing our thing, making hand over foot money. It was crazy money. And then there was an incident that I have in my book that because we were major dealers, so we were known for that. But this guy ended up getting a hold of my buddy's, my boyfriend's briefcase, and it had like probably, I'd say two keys and 100,000, and we knew who took it. And this is how crazy this guy was. He literally coerced the guy to come in because he was a big pot dealer. And we had two pit bulls and we had a Doberman. And ended up killing my dog because I moved back with my mom and to hurt me. So, but he sticked one of the pit bulls on the guy and he killed him. And this is the life that I was thrown into. And then I just end up, like I was talking about domestic violence, how it's so hard for women to get out of a bad situation. And you can get out of a lot of situations because I didn't have no kids involved or anything. I just had dogs involved. But then look what he did to my dog, because Damien was a red Doberman, and I took him with me when I left, and then I left the two pits there with him. But what I'm getting at is the childhood was really, it was, me being raised as a young, adult. It was really a crazy life. And I seen a lot with my eyes, that I don't think anybody could ever take those visions from me because they were nothing nice. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's what I mean. Like people don't understand. Like people pass people every day. They see people out in public. You pass people at a mall. You pass people in a gas station. You pass people at Walmart. You're walking around and nobody knows. And like your title, Eyes of a Survivor. I mean, like nobody knows what nobody's been through. Some people judge people by assumption and perception, and I was talking about that in one of my previous podcasts, which I didn't release yet. That is going to be my mental health awareness one. That'll be the one after yours. It's already filmed, but we just didn't edit it yet. But I said you can't. I learned in life through my own mistakes that don't ever walk around, assuming or have a perception on somebody based upon appearance, because nobody knows what anybody's going through, and that's why I say like be that person that when you're walking out of somewhere, hold the door for somebody, take the extra 2 minutes, say good afternoon or good morning to somebody walking past you, because you don't know what anybody's going through. That can make somebody's world by just saying good morning to them. They might have been having the worst past couple weeks of their life, and that might have brought them up. So I mean, like people, they don't know. They don't know behind your eyes what you've seen. Nobody knows behind my eyes what I've seen. And that's why always treat people with respect, and don't judge other people based upon assumption or perception.
Well, see, don't you like to be treated with respect? That's the way I said. Treat people the way that you want to be treated. Because I'm
Absolutely.
notorious as to if I see someone because I'm such a non-filtered person, and so my heart's so big. I think that's really what's got me through so many, because God knows my faith's very strong, my belief's very strong. But if I see someone really down, I'll go walk up right up to them, and I'll be saying, how's your day going? Or or help some. elderly woman out the door or open up the door for them. And you're exactly right. It makes their day, you know. It's just people, there's not enough nice people out here.
I
You
mean,
know, this world is totally different.
well, that's why I say it doesn't take much effort to be kind, but it takes a lot of effort to be an asshole.
Well, yeah, that's the truth. So,
But yeah, so I don't know if it's in your book or not, but leading up to, we just left off at, you were in the drug game. You were, doing a lot of dealing and selling and stuff, and then which led you into incarceration. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
oh, well, that was a max penitentiary, so those girls didn't care if they shanked you, which means they'll make a tool out of a toothbrush or anything. They will kill you. What would they care? They're not leaving. Marysville is way back. You don't see no. It was in 1918 they built that, and it's like a castle when you come in. They have the towers, the barbed wire, everything. If you do not stand your grounds, you're going to get eaten up by them people, by the women. They
Well,
walk around with beards. They walk around with mustaches. They just, I mean, this is their life. So when you do short time, like someone that's going to do a year or two, they call them earth disturbers because they come in and they shake up the world and then they can walk out the door.
well,
So,
let me
but these,
ask.
yeah, it's not a joke. That's why I'm with these kids. It's the way these kids are these days, like picking up a pistol, and it's like when you carry a gun or you're going to reach for that gun in your mindset, you know you're going to use that gun. And what purpose are you going to be taking somebody's life? Because you're going to end up behind doors. I mean, you're not. It's. I mean, these kids are doing like life.
Well, let
You
me ask
know.
you. Let me ask you. At that point, you knew, you were facing some time. You were, you went through court. You got your sentence. You start doing your time. At that point of your life, would you say you were ready to take that next step and put your past behind you, or did you have more of a mindset that I'm going to do this time and then, when I get out, I'm just going to go back to being me?
I kept it very protective, Scott. I didn't just sit there. I did a lot of classes. That's how I know about domestic violence. I got degrees. I went to Ohio State's the school. So that's the college out there. So I did 2 years for business. I kept myself very, involved with doing the right thing and being very positive. You can't just go and get locked up and say boo boo wah wah. I got a bum rap. So I end up really, I did stuff, but did I come out and be no, you know, no, I didn't. I went and picked up the game again. It was more down though. It wasn't as high stream as it was. But the money was, when you were doing what I was doing, you're talking stacks of thousands and thousands of dollars a day. And it just that's what kept my addiction going because for you to be a dealer, you stay up the hours. You have to know what I'm talking. You know what I mean? Your hours are just crazy. So then what you do is just, you'd get high and you'd be up to sell your product. So I told those guys, I gave up two addictions. One's the money and one was the coke. And it was more so the money. I think, once you start doing that stuff, I was eating off it. And people didn't even know what was going on. People didn't even know. They couldn't look at me and say, oh, she's stoned. It just
Yeah.
came to the time, like I said at the Crystal's podcast, it just was time because I was just so sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was over it. I was just completely over it. I lost so many years doing what I was doing. And if I could turn back time, I would do it in a second.
So you feel as though that one day, like, nothing really stands out. Like, it was just a one day you woke up and that was it.
That
And
was
just
it. Yeah, I took an OZ and threw it down the toilet. Just
yeah,
like
that's
my father was an alcoholic. He smashed on the cigarettes, got rid of the cigarettes, got rid of the alcohol, never looked back.
Yeah, that's how
And he was the big inspiration for me, letting me know that if my dad could do this, I could do this. Which was really crazy because me and my father were always at ends with each other.
we,
He was a good father. I mean, he was a stern Italian man. He had his ways, and nobody was going to change, Ralph Genovese's ways.
Yeah, and I
But
mean that's just it with the sober sit down. I mean, people don't understand like some people get the misconceptions of like sober sit down. They think it's all alcohol and drug related based stories. I like hearing more stories like you where you went from a life where you're making cash money, pretty much want it for nothing, and then to give that up. It's not easy to want to change that lifestyle once you have it. When you go from making a ton of money and then you have to start over, and if you're not making the money legitimately, it's not a it's not an easy transition, and that's why a lot of these stories that I've been doing as of recently, a lot of people are like, "Well, you just had so and so on. They don't have an alcohol or drug problem." No, but they left a life that was frowned upon and illegal to recreate into a new life and do things positively. That's just as sober as anything. There's a thing of following sobriety, not leading into addiction where like drugs and alcohol come into play. But I know some people right now that they were addicts and they don't use anymore, but they don't live soberly. Like they're very ignorant towards people. They steal. They still do things that aren't really living a what would we call a sober lifestyle. And like if you didn't go back to your addiction, but you were still out there making money illegally, that wouldn't be living sober.
oh no, 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 no. Cocaine was my phase. These other drugs out here or the pot smoking, you know what I mean? Cocaine was my thing. I had to just, it was the money, Scott, and I'm a little miser. So do I still have some of my cash? Absolutely. It's not like that I get along with people that well, especially men, where I can have a one-on-one relationship, and a lot of men get intimidated with me because I have a nice house. I have a nice, Mercedes and a nice Jeep. Everything's paid off. Everything's paid for, you know. But for me to be able to do what I'm doing now and not worrying about money is why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
And you're
And
helping
I'm
people
keeping
along the
it
way.
straight level. And I'm not out there doing what I used to do because I can literally reach out to people and still live a decent life, you know.
I mean,
So, but
me and you talked about that on the phone. I mean, having that clarity to not have to look over your shoulder all the time, be able to sleep at night, not have to worry about things. So yeah, the the inspiration to like help other people, and I mean, so what made you? Okay, so you got your life on track. You stopped dealing, you stopped using. What led you into writing a book?
my dad died too early, I think. I know. I mean, it's 75 and he was really bummed out. He ended up in the hospital, all his organs shut down. It was we were hit by two by fours, how everything what happened with my dad. And my dad wanted to write a book. And I'm thinking, you know what? Let me go ahead and just write this book. Because my dad was all about helping people. He was in prisons where he would have to get accepted by Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was the mayor of California. And he would have to get signed, a signature and stuff for him and even going to like Pelican Cove and all those places. My dad was a little badass, tell you the truth. Heart of gold, but he knew what addiction was. And that's how those people on that level related. You cannot BS an addict, Scott, and you know that. You can't sit there and walk up to somebody and say, "Oh, you're going to do this and you're going to do that." And the first counselor that tried to do that to me, I go, "You don't know what I feel. You don't know where I'm at. Are you a drinker? Are you an addict? Then how are you going to sit there and tell me what I'm going through?" And that's the honest to God truth.
I love that you said that because, like, a lot of people, and I think this goes a long way for a lot of different professions. We're so molded into United States pushing, and I'm not against education whatsoever. I have an associate's degree myself, not in not in psychology or anything like that, but I have a very generalized education. I studied criminal justice. The thing
Oh, we would
is,
have got along great.
yeah, the thing
I didn't say
is
that.
yeah, the thing is that I believe that experience overweighs education any way you can look at it. There's sometimes I've heard of some people that used to live the life of being an addict and now they're on to move into counselor roles at like drug and alcohol facilities and stuff. And, I've heard people say like, hey, I went to go get help and, this guy I knew, he was a drug addict, was my counselor. And I said, well, you should consider yourself blessed because I know that person and they're not an addict no more. But guess what? They're going to know how you feel better than somebody with a PhD that just studies the human mind but never experienced it.
Yeah, exactly.
If you don't know what it's like to have addiction, you may not get that help that you need. And I think that's a lot of times where not getting the proper, like not talking to somebody that feels the same way as you, and you're talking to somebody that's just going to pretty much listen to your stories and listen to your symptoms and just be like, okay, well, do A, B, and C, and I'm going to put you on some medication. That's why a lot of people relapse.
But you know what though? Let's go back to that. You know what I call them textbook people, because that's how they learn everything is through a textbook. It's not experience, and experience is very important when you're dealing with addicts and you're dealing with domestic violence and you're dealing with rape and you're dealing with all kinds of aspects that I talk in the book. These are things that I have experienced and I have survived. That is why I called the book Eyes of a Survivor. I've literally seen it, I've lived it, and I breathed it. And I'm still here today to talk about it. So the way that I look at things, God has me here to help other people out. Because I should not be here. I should have been gone over 20 times. So, and I'm just like, God, everybody's always saying, God only puts on the plate that so much that you can handle. And you know what my saying is, God? I'm tired of Thanksgiving dinners. Because my plate's always was so overloaded. That's probably why I have bad anxieties today.
I think we all battle anxiety. It's how you
You know
channel.
what I'm saying?
It's how you channel the anxiety.
But you lived a life too. I mean, you're not naive towards any of this stuff. I mean, you know what I mean? You've experienced. You're very educated and known. You know what goes on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I think both of our lives, the way that we were raised, and because you are Catholic.
Yep.
And yeah, the way that we were raised, is very stern hand. You always respect your elders. Well, see, those are things that are indented in us. That's why we give such. I think we got so much compassion. Because we were raised a certain way. We might have went off the trail, but it doesn't mean that we're bad people. Because we still have that ethics inside of us that these kids today do not have.
Well, I believe that there's a God's plan, and I mean, people. I don't want to get in a religion debate with anybody, but I believe there is a plan for everybody. And like you said, you're like, we can't regret our past because without our past, we wouldn't be able to be doing what we are today as our present in inspiring people to not go down that bad life. And I always said to myself, like when I was battling addiction, I'd always ask like, why am I doing this? Why am I going through this? And now I realize after many years, like, I'm going into my 4th year of sobriety, and it took me until just recently to realize that, this podcast is, expanding every day. People are watching it. I'm getting more subscribers, which is great. I appreciate the support from everybody. I do it just to inspire others, and I enjoy doing it. And how could I have the Sober Sit Down if I didn't live the life I did years ago?
Now, see, you make a really good point. There was this lady, I'm not going to mention no names, but she sort of like rubbed me and she's a Christian woman. She did missions, across the third worlds and everything like that. But she made a comment to me, what I'm doing is where I'm at today because of my addiction. And I'm sober today. And when she made a comment to me, she's like, you just need to not live the past and stop doing interviews and stuff like that. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're crossing a road here because this is what made me today who I was back then. And this is what's going to keep going on. I mean, me reaching out to people, you have to start somewhere. I'm not going to stop everything because I'm a born again Christian now. That's not how, this isn't how it works for me, you know. So, I've come too far, to sit there and not reach out and let people know my experience and stuff.
Well, big misconception too is like I think a lot of people don't understand. Like me and you, like we'll help anybody that wants help, but we're not going out knocking on people's doors trying to recruit people to get into sobriety. Like this isn't a cult. This isn't like you got to want to live like this. And if the person does not want to live like this, I've had many people come to me and say, "Please help my son. Please help my daughter. Please help my brother. Please help my sister. Please help my mother. Please help my father." And the thing is I can't help them unless they want to get help themselves.
That's exactly what I was saying in that the other interview I just did. I told her, I go, if they're not ready, you have to want this from your heart. You have to want it. You're the one that's going to change everything. You can have the best support system and everything, but if you're not ready to make that step, you're not going to make that step. You have to really want this. So that's a good analogy that you just made because I believe that solely. You said a lot of good stuff, Scott.
I try. I try.
No, because we're like on the same page. We think, I mean, it's just crazy. But
Yeah, it's like and like I'm not here like, I'll be at like a family function or something like that, and somebody will be having like a beer or just like relaxing. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say people are doing drugs at that like at the house. But
yeah.
like if we're at a barbecue and people are like having a beer or drinking a mixed drink or something, I think like people sometimes look at me and they're like, "Oh, is he judging me? Is he?" And it's I can sit there and socialize with anybody that can have a drink. Like I choose not to go out to like bars and places that like people are spitting, spilling drinks. I mean I don't know anybody that is sober that wants to tolerate somebody that's obnoxiously drunk. And I'm
Uh-huh.
not. And if there's somebody like that, I'm not judging them because of it. I just don't put myself in that situation to be around people like that. Now, if somebody's composed and they're having a drink and they're talking to me, like at a wedding or even at a barbecue or something like that, I'm not going to judge anybody. And I still don't judge somebody that's fallen down drunk. If I see somebody that's fallen down drunk, I'm probably not going to like go near them because like I just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff. It's obnoxious and stuff. But I don't judge people. If somebody's that bad, I pray for them that they get the help they could. But I'm not here trying to recruit a sobriety cult and make people like me go up to that person's family and say, hey, you really should get that guy help. He should, jump on board where I'm at and be sober like me. Because at the end of the day, it's other people's lives and we're not here to judge them. If they want to get the help, all that we can do is share our story. And hopefully, if somebody is struggling, they can relate to our story and maybe make a step towards the better life that they should live.
Yeah, but see what the way you're talking is a true person that is out for the best of others. Because my brother, they drink. They're Italians, they drink, you know. Just so, I mean, I'm around, them drinking and stuff like that. That doesn't bother me. It was just the other stuff that bothered me, and I gave up. I had to change everything. And you're talking hundreds of people, that I socialized with. And there was maybe the only people that I kept socializing with is because they sobered up themselves. And that's only like two out of hundreds,
Yeah.
because you got to change people, places, and things. That's a must. You have
I
to.
and you know what that phrase that you just said, I say that a lot is people, place, and things. And once again, I say that on a lot of my episodes for people that want to make that change. But that even goes outside the box of sobriety as well. Like I notice myself more and more as I mature and as I grow as a person, and my mind starts because I'm a lot more I want to say alert, and I'm a lot more understanding of how life actually works rather than,
You're
you know,
experienced.
yeah, I'm not getting fogged, and I actually through experience, like you said, I'm starting to learn how life really is supposed to be and how you're supposed to approach it and how you're supposed to see it. Because my sponsor once told me when I first got early on, he goes, Scott, you came to these meetings for your drinking, but you're gonna stay for your thinking, and I truly believe that because um, where the heck was I going with this? I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. It happens to the best of us. Believe me.
Well, I had a point. I had a point to that. I don't know.
But kids, I think you're open, and Scott, you're very intelligent. You know what you want out of life now. You've lived life term experiences, and that's the number one thing to do. You know, and for
Living life
people,
on life's terms,
yeah,
accepting it for what it is, and I say like patience, acceptance. Oh, I remember what I was gonna say now.
okay,
So people, places, and things. I said like that pertains more outside the box than sobriety, and people, places, and things. I even noticed myself maturing. I will not if I have people if I go to places, I'm around people that constantly are negative. There's been people that I've recently had to cut out of my life because it was making me turn into I was a negative person, and I've been on such a positive. You want to call it high? I don't know what you want to call it, but
positive high. You could say that.
I want to keep myself around people that want to self grow, and I want to I try and stay away from negativity, self pity, jealousy, hatred, and yeah, that's. I mean, I don't want to be around anything that's going to bring me down or make me go backwards on steps. Every year, I feel as though I take a step up in progress. I don't want anybody to knock me back down. And I mean, I know feeding back into my addiction will definitely make me fall backwards on those steps and go all the way at the bottom and start back from like the first step. But I never want to go back to that road. But I do know if you hang out with negative people, you'll become negative yourself.
Oh,
And
absolutely. It's really to have a good support system of positive people. That I mean that is really really important, Scott. That was a good point too. I mean, you can't be around somebody, and believe me, I backed away from some family members because of the negativity. You know what I mean? It's like I've gone too far, and I'm the type that I wear my heart on my sleeve. I have such a big heart, and things get to me where there's the simple little things that people wouldn't even think about, and they just eat me up alive inside. It's like I got to get down to it. I don't ever let anything fester. If I get in a confrontation with somebody or a disagree, not agreeing or disagreeing, I'm on the phone the next day. I'll make you talk to me. You're not going to get away from me because I don't like it to sit. That's what people do, especially, I'm talking about family. You get a lot of drama in families, especially if you're Italians. A lot of drama, and I just, I try to stay equitable with everybody in my family. I'm not the crazy one now, because I used to be, it was always pick on Kathy, pick on Kathy. And they got away with it for years. Where now I was like water with, a duck's back, when now it's like, wait a minute, you got to, what did you just say to me? Where they're not used to that at all. Cause I'm going on my 4 years. So they're not used to me coming back at them. Cause I used to say, oh, whatever, you know what I mean? Cause I'd be so stoned. But now it's changed so much, the dynamics and everything. And it's just like, if you don't have anything positive to say, I'm just going to have to not talk to you.
oh, recently I've been catching myself a lot lately, like family members and stuff like that. People that are set in their ways that I don't want to live the way that they live. And so I've noticed myself even like family members taking shorter visits at certain people's houses because I don't agree with the way that they do things. So I just was like, okay, well, their house, their rules. So if I don't want to comply, and I'm not going to incriminate any of my family members and
Yeah,
talk
that's the
about
way that
them,
I am. I just say
but
families.
like certain family members, they're set in their ways, and I mean, not what they do is wrong. It's just not the way that I do things, and I just can't adapt to the way that they do things. So what I'll do is I'll make some visits short and sweet. When things start getting to a point where I start feeling uncomfortable, I just leave.
Yeah.
Always having that exit plan, and like even like certain family members, or even friends. What gets me is like, and this is something that really stands out to me because I'm guilty as charged of it, and it's one thing in my past 4 years that I actually regret is the self pity and the complaining that I did going up to people when I first got sober. I'd be in the gym trying to like stay sober, and I wasn't happy with my life situation because of the life that I lived prior to getting sober. It put me in a lot of detrimental financial stress, financial in difficulties, and I, had to start over. So not only was I starting a new life of sobriety, I was starting over altogether because I was in a family business my whole life, and I had to start living life the right way where I went to work every day. I worked for an hourly wage. I listened to other people tell me what to do, and I had to start out small in order to get big. And I knew that with my mindset, as long as I can convert my addiction into positive things, I will always make it out no matter what. And staying busy, staying motivated, always wanting to take that next step up. It got me at the end of the tunnel a lot faster than some other people. And my biggest regret was, like I said, the complaining and the self pity I had for myself. I thought just because I was sober, my life should just go back to normal. Like I had a high sense of entitlement. I felt as though that I should, I was entitled because I stopped drinking to land a job that's six figures and I can work Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, with no education or any experience to back it up. I just had a high sense of entitlement because of my addiction mindset. I felt as though that I deserve instant gratification. And,
That's so true.
and I just was like, okay, well, I'm 6 months sober. When's my life going to start getting better? Well, what about the past 11 years of your life where you didn't do shit with yourself and you were doing things the wrong way that actually put you in? And when you start taking accountability and holding yourself accountable, and you say to yourself, it's your fault while you're here because of the mistakes you made in your past. Now you got to face them at the present, which is going to, in turn, if you face the facts, realize it's your fault. And I'm going to use a line here from a movie I watched last night, which is one of my favorite movies I watched about 100 times, is The Bronx Tale. Chaz Palminteri says, nobody cares. Nobody cares. So you could, and you can complain all day and you can have self-pity for yourself.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. And
They don't care.
there's that old phrase. It's like, you're not making enough money, work harder. Nobody cares. Like, and so, realizing that I don't want to be sweeping floors in a warehouse 12 hours a night for $11 an hour, I took a stand for myself. I said, this isn't going to be it for me. This is the starting point to my new life. I looked at it. I looked at the broom. I looked at, working in other facilities for $11, $12, $13 an hour. And I said, I'm not going to be doing this the rest of my life. I'm going to work crazy hours. I'm going to educate myself, and I'll just keep moving on from here. I moved in from minimum wage, working multiple minimum wage jobs to get myself financially back on my feet, changing my whole lifestyle around to then educate myself. I would work full time. I went and got my CDL. It took me 6 months to get it. I accomplished getting a CDL and stayed busy, which in turn, using that high energy focus to not have any time to worry about addiction, I had myself focused on other things. I wanted to get myself out of the rut. So I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to work 60 hours a week and I'm going to go get my CDL. I knocked that out. Did the CDL thing for 2 years and was working a part-time job on the side. Now I sell cars and now I have a podcast. Like every year, I just keep moving myself up.
Oh, you're going to do good, though, Scott. I mean, because you're going to always excel. Because the ins and the rights, and you are such a humble person, and you're very grounded because you're looking at life in a completely different, in your eyes are completely different because they're wide open. And I'm telling you what, people think it's so easy for us to do what we're doing. You got to work twice as hard to do what we're doing, because it's calling, getting our self-respect back, having people start respecting us back, I mean, it's a whole pool of stuff. I think what we do helps us with our sobriety because we're helping other people out.
Well, we won't.
And
I don't think, not to cut you off. I apologize, but just to stay on point with that, I don't think that complacency exists in our vocabulary. We won't allow ourselves to get complacent.
yeah, yeah.
I just want to keep growing and educate myself. That, I mean, and when I say educate myself, like I said, I'm not against college or anything like that. But when I say educate, I mean experience. I want to keep experiencing new things in life. I want to keep expanding my horizons. I don't ever want somebody to tell me that, okay, well, this is what you're going to do the rest of your life. Do that, and then you can retire, and then, hopefully that'll be enough for you to get into your elder years if you make it that long to, live a decent life. And
No, you will. You'll make it. I mean, like I said, you're street educated as well as educated what's going around you. And if you're not both living these days, you got a rude awakening. That's what we're trying to reach out and let people know. We don't need to be, we know what we know, but this stands as of today, what's going on out here. You could be anywhere and someone's going to be pulling a gun out at you. It's just, it's ridiculous. Then you got all that human trafficking going on. And I mean, it's crazy out here.
well, it's like I feel like there's no balance in the world right now. It's like you
There's
either have
not.
you feel like it's either like people that are street smart that have the system figured out, or you got the educated people that are soft on the inside and they get taken advantage
Exactly.
of. So there's no like really balance. Like me and you have a balance, and I'm not like tooting our own horns like we're higher up and superior than other people. But people just need to understand that you don't have to go down the roads we did to live a good pure life and to be educated on life. Just pay attention, go to work. If you want to better yourself, get like a certification or an education. Start a business. Take risks for yourself. Open up that business you always want to open up. Don't live with regrets. Make memories, not regrets. I always say. Take chances and just be a good person. Don't always. What I feel as though, like, I truly believe karma is
Oh, I
alive
believe
and
in
well,
karma completely.
because I believe that I fell into a trap, and I'll be the first one to admit it. I think I fell into a trap when I was in my first year of sobriety, and I remember purposely doing nice things for people, thinking that because my mind was so deteriorated because of the way I used to live, and I wanted to fast track my life. I felt as though that, like, well, if I start doing nice things for people, I'll be rewarded through karma, and I will gain a better life. It wasn't until I started stop forcing myself to do nice things for people and it just came naturally that I started seeing my life get easier. So what I'm trying to say is, like, don't always do good things because you feel as though that there's going to be a payback or reward to it.
Exactly.
Just do them because it's going to start coming natural to you. Start holding those doors for people. Don't be ignorant. If you're in the middle of a text message and you're tying up a machine at the gym, or you're tying up the line at the convenience store, step to the side, be courteous to people.
Yeah, it's rude.
Just
It's
just
right.
like just like drop your entitlement, drop, like, a lot of people are pride driven these days, like very very pride driven. And like I said, it's easier to just kind of go with the flow rather than put in the effort to be that asshole.
Yeah, because boy, there's a lot of assholes out there.
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of lack of consequences that come with it. Like,
Oh,
a lot,
exactly. Because they duck
like
and dive. I call it duck and dive, and they get away with it. But I believe in karma, and what comes around goes around.
my
I
brother taught me.
solely believe in that.
My younger brother taught me that because I used to get amped up and riled up about certain people, and he's a very like educated, smart person, as far as like book smarts goes. But he did say like something that always stuck with me when I would get wound up about somebody, and I'd be like, how dare that person like talk to me like that over social media and disrespect me like that, like, and I would get all amped up, and I'd be like, I want to go meet them and fight them now, and and he'd be like, why are you gonna get all amped up and like worry about that idiot's comment? He's like, you don't know what's going on with them. You don't know what they're living. Obviously, if they're making idiotic comments to you, they're either jealous or they're just they're internally miserable themselves. Let karma take care of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Let karma, and not to wish harm on anybody, but what comes around goes around. Like, if you go around being an asshole, eventually, something negative is gonna happen to you. It's only
yeah. There's a
It's
lot of
only
people like
inevitable.
that.
But you can't, as a good person, you can't wish harm of retaliation and revenge
No,
on somebody, because that's not living sober either. That's not
no.
that's being negative, and you're feeding into negativity.
I think I want to come up with the shirts called the Goodfellows group. Well, not the Goodfellas movie. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
just had to put that in there because we're pretty good people, you know. So, I mean, we want the best for other people. That's just having a big heart. And we know what we're talking about. That's a check. You know, it's not like we're talking out from a book, we're talking from experience. And this is what these kids need to hear because that's the first thing they're going to end up saying. Because I know a bunch of these kids these days are real fly. And they're going to say, why? How do you know? Because I've been there and I've experienced that.
Well, yeah, and that's why I came out with the Sober Sit Down, because there was a point when like I told you, I went and got my CDL. I started driving a lot of tractor trailer around, like, I told you, I drove from Pennsylvania to Ohio. I'd have to sleep in Ohio because it was such a long day and you'd run out of hours and stuff. So that gave me, not knowing where I'm going to be day to day, not knowing where my landing spot's going to be when my clock was going to run out of time, and I had to pull over and sleep in a hotel or something like that. I didn't have time to be going to meetings. Like they always say, like, oh, you can find a meeting anywhere. Yeah, but like you can't pre-plan your day. You might hit traffic. You might do this. So like I wouldn't know day to day where my day was going to end. So for me to find a meeting at 1 o'clock in the morning when I'm settling down, it was a lot easier for me to start listening to inspirational content on podcasts and stuff like that. So I used to listen to a lot of, like, I really idolize, I don't want to say idolize, I shouldn't use that word. I really have a lot of respect for people that used to be in the life of, the mafia. And I just feel as though the people that were in the mob that didn't go back to the mob and now are out inspiring people because of what they lived in their past, they have really strong stories of inspiration to make people go forward to not want to go back to that life. Kind of like yourself. You made a lot of money. To not want to go back to that life is highly respectful in my eyes. That's a remarkable rebound. And I felt as though that some people that are on the fence of their life, even if it's not addiction related, if they're just not living the life that they should be living, they should be able to maybe listen to a podcast like this and be like, "Oh my God, that sounds like me," or "Yeah, I get what they're saying. Like it all makes sense because that's how I'm living." And it would inspire somebody to make that change, no matter how late in life it is. Like my dad just went through some rough times, and he lost his business after 37 years. He had to start his life back over at 61, and now he's just an average Joe. He's a salesman. He makes pretty good money for himself. He's not living, no millionaire lifestyle or anything, but he lives average, and he appreciates what he has now.
So,
And
what does he think about his son? What are you doing now? Isn't that different?
we're gonna leave that one alone. No, he's proud. He's
I
proud of
shouldn't
me.
have said that.
No, he's proud of me. It's just he's
Oh, I'm
got.
sure he is, Scott.
He does, like,
It's
he has
that you
that.
changed
He has
everything
that.
around.
He has like that tough love, so he doesn't show emotions.
It's my father.
So like I don't even remember being hugged as a kid or anything, but he would tell me good job when I did something good. But
Oh, you were the black sheep too, huh?
yeah, I was a good athlete. My brother got good grades.
I was a
you know?
cheerleader. I mean, we were
Yeah.
good kids. I'm not saying that. I think you just probably bucked with your father like I did when you had two personalities, strong personalities living underneath a roof. You're going to boom constantly.
A lot of it
And
was
I do
business
believe that's
related.
what happened with me and my dad.
We were in business a lot together. Like I managed a lot of his businesses, and we always butted heads when it came to that. But outside of work, it was a different story.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so you were out in California in regards to your book. What's some future plans you have? Are you gonna pump out another book?
Yeah,
Or
I'm starting one. Yeah, it's just about the street life. This is, Scott, tell you the truth about this book. It's an introduction. My one best friend I was just with, and her name's Cindy, and I was just with her. And it's a crazy story. So this was my best friend in high school, and my brother ended up marrying her cousin. But didn't even know, they weren't even, it wasn't involved like that. It just was really crazy. I said, a small world, but I love my sister-in-law. That's Ralphie's wife. But I forgot what I was going to say. I was getting to some kind of point. I don't know what I was going to say.
About the introduction to your story, how you're gonna
Oh,
promote the book.
yeah. So she's like, because we're somewhere, we're at it's a restaurant, and it's a bar in there too, but it's a restaurant. Of course, we weren't drinking, we were eating. And she's like, "Look at my girlfriend wrote a book," and she goes, "But this can't be her whole life, because it's 174 pages." And I said, "No," and it's like almost like an introduction. I couldn't put my whole life in a book. How am I going to do that? So what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to part it out. It's just going to be different, books pertaining to like the street. Me being on the street dealing and stuff.
You ever
And the
think about
cops.
making? You ever think about making your book into a film?
Well, they already did a trailer, and they don't do trailers on books.
Mm.
So they did a trailer on my book already.
One
I'm
of my
pretty. They've exposed me really big out in LA because I got a creative team of 8.
one of my ex guests that came on, Nick Christophers. He has like 5 or 6 books. He just went out. He's going out in November to the music conference. Or I mean, I'm sorry, the movie conference, AMC movie conference.
Really?
Yeah, he wrote the book Destinies. He's trying to convert his books into a film.
So what is he? What's contained in his book? What does he talk about?
It's a fictional story about I'm a little bit rusty on remembering because I've had so many
But
guests
it's
on such
addiction
stuff.
and stuff like that.
No, it's about the mob. It's a fictional story about the mob.
Oh, okay.
Something that he created, and it's not. He said it's based off of a true story, but it's more or less something about like mob life story kind of. But he's trying to turn it into a film. But I think that's cool when it starts with a book. I mean, some of your best movies that were historic, they converted them from books into movies, and it played out good for both ends. They had that book out. I Heard You Paint Houses Red, and they converted that into The Irishman.
Oh
That
yeah,
was,
I remember that movie. That was
and
wicked.
yeah, that a lot. There's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories about that.
Your phone's like mine.
There's a lot of stories about that from like where I live. They talk about like Pittston. That's where I'm from.
Oh
It's
yeah, you were telling me about that. Who played the Irishman? Wasn't that Johnny Depp?
no Robert De Niro. He played Frank
Robert De
Sheeran.
Niro. Okay. Because Johnny Depp played in a lot of mob movies.
Yeah,
I like
Donnie
Johnny
Brasco.
Depp.
Donnie Brasco.
Yes, he did. So there you go.
But yeah, thanks for Kathy. Thanks for coming out. I'd like to link up with you again sometime
Oh,
soon.
we'll definitely do that.
I wish you nothing but the best, and
You too, Scott.
I hope to stay in touch with you. And I thank you for coming out today. And I hope some people got some inspiration from our content. And don't forget to reach out and subscribe to the channel. And there's gonna be a link below to purchase Kathy's book, Eyes of a Survivor, and hopefully everybody gets a good read out of it. Wintertime's coming. The weather's gonna get bad, and nothing better than a good book by the fireplace.
Yeah, and if they want any kind of other information, I'm in Yahoo, I'm on Google, on Bang. I'm in like a dozen and a half platforms of magazines. So I'm all over the place. So I have the website and I have a trailer out. So I just hope to reach out to everybody, and everybody, God bless, and everybody be on a happy trail to sobriety. And it was so nice talking to you. And I think we did a really good interview.
I think so too.
I
Maybe
do.
another one down the road. Well,
Okay, you got it.
thanks, Kathy.
Thanks. Peace.